So yeah, that idea of better understanding ourselves racially and how we do that, how we get a chance to do that. Um, because I don't think, and at least I didn't grow up in this way. We had race being discussed, or like the impact of it being discussed, but just sitting down and having these really explicit conversations about how to respond or what to do or what racism does to you uh and a part of your developmental phase, especially for me at the time of being a young adult in college and trying to process all the racism that I was facing that I had never faced before, being insulated by my family, being in predominantly black um, communities, and then being now in a predominantly white institution, predominantly white town with horrible racist things happening I hadn't experienced and not being able to really unpack that.
Mm-hmm.
Having what I wished I had was somebody at that time to really work some of the questions out with me that I was having, or sit and validate more my feelings and my experiences that I was having.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, what does it mean or look like, or how did you, if you had someone to unpack racism with you?
Well, you wouldn't know it by looking at me, but I'm Abenaki from Canada, and I'm one generation removed from the reservation. But my Swedish side takes over a little bit, and so I'm growing up with a father who spent a lot of time on the reservation as a child and was raised in a much more traditional setting for Native people. And so we're raised, you're a Native, you do this, you're a Native, and so this is how you behave. You're a Native, and so this. And so one day I had to ask my dad, but how are people going to know that I'm a Native person if I don't look like a Native person? And the short answer on that is he basically said, well, they'll know, especially when you're in areas with other Native people, they'll know. I haven't necessarily found that to be true,
Mm,
but we did have those very distinctive conversations, and it is a very common theme, and especially in the Native community for very white presenting people. And it has been my experience that every once in a while I come into contact with that moment of like, okay, so as a Native person in this space that no one knows that I'm a Native person in this
right.
space, where are my experiences needing to be spoken about? Like I can't speak to being discriminated against for the way I look, because that doesn't happen, but I can speak to watching cultures that I was raised with be disrespected, be forgotten, and having to kind of try to process that or stand up for that, from someone who people aren't necessarily expecting to have quite the agency
Yeah.
that I do, and then respecting the parts where that I don't have agency to. So.
Yeah. So with our work with race and faith, right now we're positioning ourselves um as a space to unpack racism, and more specifically give people an opportunity to do this in partnership with others who really want to dig deeper and ask the harder questions and challenge themselves, especially white people, to be in touch with their own racial identity development and their own story, and ways that they can see how um, they've been uh, actors in that space, meaning possibly at moments in time thinking that talking about racism was something that needed to be done, but not ready to really take action. And so moving from that space of not being very active, but really wanting to go into that whole space of being an accomplice and risking and putting yourself on the line for racial justice. We want to help people get there and get to that space, but do it in a safe environment in a way that you can ask questions of yourself and speak to your own experiences and have facilitators around who are willing and ready and able to walk with you and challenge you too as you grow. And I think that that piece is valuable and important as one is trying to figure out what's my role in terms of racial justice. What does that look like? So I love you sharing your story and understanding that I don't present, I'm very white adjacent. that might be a stretch. However, I know who I am too. I know who I'm connected to, who I'm a part of, and I'm not divorced from that, even though you could pass all the way if you wanted to. And I think that's important for us to think about and consider those moments when we can be very comfortable and where we could pass and allow whiteness to take center stage and do what it does and extend all the privileges it extends when we can say in the face of all that and say, you know what, at this moment, that's why I'm choosing to be in that accomplice role to say no. I'm gonna block that or announce it, use it, the privileges to make sure justice is happening for other people. But it's a process to get there. So if you're interested and you want to walk with us and want us to walk with you on your journey of better understanding who you are racially and how you fit in the world of racial justice, consider joining our support group starting next week. Thanks, Josiah.
Thank you, Rhonda.